There is a quiet misunderstanding about Sigma males that rarely gets addressed, and it shapes how people misinterpret their silence, their distance, and their refusal to over-explain themselves. From the outside, people assume Sigma males are detached because they are cold, that they withdraw because they are antisocial, and that they walk away because they are arrogant or emotionally unavailable. But this interpretation misses something essential. Sigma males are not detached because they lack feeling. They are detached because they understand limits. A Sigma male does not spend his life negotiating his worth, does not argue his boundaries into existence, and does not announce his standards loudly or enforce them aggressively. Instead, he lives by a simple internal rule. Anything that disturbs his inner order is removed quietly. This is why many people feel confused when dealing with a Sigma male, because there is often no confrontation, no long explanation, no emotional back and forth, and no dramatic closing scene. One day, access simply ends. This is not emotional avoidance. It is emotional economy. Sigma males understand something that most people learn far too late. Not every behavior deserves a reaction. Not every disrespect deserves a response, and not every relationship deserves continued access. They recognize that energy is finite, attention is valuable, and peace is fragile. And so they choose carefully where all three are invested. High-value men do not preserve peace by pleasing others. They preserve peace by deciding what they will never tolerate. And what separates Sigma males from other archetypes is not dominance or submission, not loud confidence or visible authority, but selectivity. They do not try to control people, persuade behavior, or manage emotions. They control access. In everyday life, this means the Sigma male's boundaries are often invisible until they are crossed. And once crossed, there is rarely a second warning, not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. This video is not about ego, superiority, or winning. It's about understanding the internal rules that govern a Sigma male's world, the quiet standards that shape his decisions, and the reason his presence carries weight, without him ever needing to raise his voice. Here are 6 things Sigma males never tolerate from anyone. Point 1, subtle disrespect, disguised as humor. The Sigma male is exceptionally sensitive to patterns, particularly patterns of intent, and this sensitivity is not emotional, but perceptive. While others may fixate on the surface content of a joke, its humor or its social acceptability, the Sigma male listens beneath the words. He notices timing, context, delivery, and most importantly, repetition. A comment said once may be accidental, but a comment echoed in slightly altered forms reveals intention, humor that carries a faint edge, a delayed punchline that lands just a bit too precisely, or a recurring undertone of subtle belittlement does not pass unnoticed. What distinguishes the Sigma male in these moments is not confrontation, but restraint. He does not react emotionally in real time. There is no visible offense taken, no attempt to correct the speaker, and no defensive posture or performative boundary setting. Instead, there is quiet observation. He allows the interaction to continue long enough for the pattern to fully expose itself. This patience is deliberate. The Sigma male understands that intent reveals itself most clearly when it believes it is unchallenged. Once the pattern is confirmed, his response is simple and final: withdrawal. This withdrawal is not impulsive, dramatic, or punitive. It is filtration. The Sigma male does not believe in educating those who benefit from misunderstanding him. He understands that disrespect rarely escalates suddenly. It begins subtly, often disguised as humor, familiarity, or social play. These early tests are attempts to measure tolerance, to see what can be gotten away with. By removing himself early, the Sigma male prevents escalation entirely. There is no argument to revisit, no incident to dissect, and no emotional residue left behind. Over time, people often feel confused by his absence. Conversations grow quieter, access diminishes, invitations stop being returned, yet they remain unaware that access was revoked, not because of a single remark, but because of a consistent misalignment of respect. The Sigma male does not announce his boundaries. He enforces them through absence. To him, attention is currency, proximity is privilege, and presence is earned through alignment, not explanation. In this way, his silence is not weakness, but discernment, and his distance is not avoidance, but quiet self-respect in action. Point 2, emotional manipulation and guilt-based control. The Sigma male operates with a refined awareness of emotional leverage that has been shaped by observation rather than reaction. He understands that emotion, in its healthy form, is information, a signal that reveals values, boundaries, and internal states. But he is equally aware of how emotion can be weaponized as a means of control. When tactics such as guilt framing, artificial urgency, silent withdrawal of affection, or sudden emotional volatility appear, he registers them instantly, not as dramatic events, but as behavioral patterns. To him, these behaviors are not emotionally overwhelming or confusing. They are inefficient systems attempting to extract compliance through pressure rather than clarity. The Sigma male is deeply protective of his internal stability, and anything that introduces unnecessary turbulence into his mental environment is treated as a structural flaw rather than a personal offense. This is why he does not rush to explain himself, defend his intentions, or negotiate emotional terms when manipulation is present. Engagement would require him to abandon his center of gravity, and that is a cost he does not pay. His disengagement is often misunderstood by others as coldness, indifference, or emotional detachment, but this interpretation misses the deeper truth. What appears as distance is, in reality, discipline in action. He has learned that emotional economies built on pressure, fear of loss, or reactive exchanges inevitably erode clarity, and clarity is the foundation upon which his decisions are made. The Sigma male does not seek dominance through emotional control, nor does he submit to it. He simply steps outside of systems that rely on imbalance to function. By refusing to react, he denies manipulation its only source of power, attention. His neutrality is not a lack of feeling, but a conscious containment of it, ensuring that emotions serve understanding rather than impulse. This restraint allows him to remain sovereign in his thinking, unclouded by manufactured urgency or emotional noise in relationships, professional environments, or social dynamics. He prioritizes calm consistency over dramatic connection, knowing that anything requiring emotional coercion to survive is already misaligned. The Sigma male values connection, but not at the expense of his mental order. He understands that clarity, once compromised, is difficult to restore, and so he guards it with quiet resolve. In choosing disengagement over emotional negotiation, he preserves not only his peace, but also his ability to see situations exactly as they are. and that vision is his greatest strength. Point 3. Inconsistent behavior and unstable energy. Consistency is one of the Sigma male's primary metrics for trust, not because he lacks emotional depth, but because he understands the cost of instability at a psychological level. He does not require emotional warmth, constant reassurance, performative loyalty, or social enthusiasm from others. What he requires is coherence, the alignment between what a person says, what they do, and how they behave over time. When behavior shifts based on mood, convenience, social pressure, or the presence of a different audience, the Sigma male immediately registers this as fragmentation of character. Fragmentation signals unpredictability, and unpredictability demands vigilance. Vigilance consumes attention. Attention to the Sigma male is a finite and sacred resource. Unstable energy forces continuous adjustment, recalibrating expectations, reinterpreting intentions, and bracing for inconsistency. Over time, this silent labor drains focus, disrupts inner rhythm, and erodes momentum. The Sigma male has no interest in performing this kind of maintenance for others. He does not attempt to stabilize emotionally volatile people. He does not try to decode contradictions or resolve mixed signals. He does not analyze why someone is inconsistent, nor does he assign moral judgment to it. He simply observes patterns and adjusts proximity accordingly. Distance, for him, is not punishment. It is preservation. Environments that require constant recalibration, where rules change without notice and behavior is reactive rather than principled, are quietly exited. This process is unemotional, efficient, and decisive. Over time, this filtering creates an inner circle that is intentionally small, predictable, and low maintenance. Not because the Sigma male is antisocial, but because he values uninterrupted clarity. Within this circle, expectations are stable, communication is clean, and energy is conserved rather than managed. There is no need to brace, guess, or recover. This stability allows the Sigma male to remain internally anchored, focused on long-term objectives rather than short-term emotional turbulence. To outsiders, this preference for consistency may appear rigid or detached, but to the Sigma male it is freedom. Stability is not boring. It is efficient. It removes noise. It protects momentum. It allows depth without chaos and connection without obligation. In a world driven by emotional fluctuation and social performance, the Sigma male's quiet insistence on coherence becomes both his shield and his advantage. Point 4. Disrespect for time and focus. Time is not merely a resource to the Sigma male. It is a direct reflection of self-respect, inner discipline, and personal sovereignty. How a man treats time reveals how he treats himself. And the Sigma male observes this with quiet precision. Chronic lateness, broken commitments, repeated rescheduling, and casual disregard for another person's attention are not minor flaws in his eyes. They are indicators of internal disorder. They signal a mind that lacks structure, foresight, and accountability. The Sigma male does not respond to these patterns emotionally, nor does he internalize them as personal disrespect. Instead, he interprets them structurally as data. He understands that a person who cannot manage their own time will inevitably attempt to manage, interrupt, or consume the time of others. For the Sigma male, this is not a moral judgment, but a practical conclusion. Time is finite, attention is sacred, and energy must be protected with intention, rather than issuing repeated warnings, reminders, or emotional explanations. The Sigma male makes quiet adjustments. He stops scheduling interactions that require reliability. He stops initiating conversations that demand consistency. He stops accommodating chaos under the illusion of patience. This withdrawal is not punishment, and it is not resentment, it is filtration. Many misinterpret this shift as coldness, avoidance, or unexplained distance, but from the Sigma male's perspective, explanation is unnecessary. Boundaries that require justification are already weakened. He understands that those who respect time do not need to be taught its value, and those who repeatedly waste it will not change through discussion alone. The Sigma male's silence is not passive aggression. It is alignment. He aligns his presence with those who operate from order, awareness, and mutual respect. Time protection for him is not negotiable because time represents life itself. Each moment invested is a statement of priority, and the Sigma male refuses to invest in patterns that erode clarity or focus. By quietly removing access rather than engaging in conflict, he preserves his internal balance and forward momentum. This is why his life appears streamlined, intentional, and free of unnecessary friction. He is not rigid, he is precise. He does not chase understanding, he honors structure. In the end, the Sigma male's relationship with time becomes a mirror for others, revealing who is aligned, who is distracted, and who is no longer permitted entry into the protected space of his attention. Point 5, attempts to dominate, test, or provoke. Quiet confidence often acts like a mirror, reflecting the unresolved insecurities of those who encounter it. For insecure personalities, this presence can feel unsettling, even threatening, because it does not offer the usual cues they rely on to gauge status, approval, or control. As a result, they begin to test. These tests are rarely obvious. They appear as subtle challenges, masked as jokes, passive-aggressive remarks, boundary pushes, framed as curiosity, or small provocations designed to extract an emotional reaction. The goal is not truth or connection, but reassurance, proof that they still hold influence within an invisible social hierarchy. The Sigma male, however, does not respond to these dynamics because he does not recognize them as meaningful. He has already exited the unspoken game. He does not measure himself through comparison, nor does he feel compelled to defend his position through words, tone, or posture. Where others instinctively react, he remains internally still. This stillness is often misinterpreted as weakness or indifference, which only deepens the tester's confusion. They escalate, increasing pressure in hopes of triggering irritation, anger, or submission. Yet the Sigma male remains unchanged. His silence is not avoidance, it is discernment. He understands that attention is a form of currency, and he refuses to spend it on performances rooted in insecurity. Over time, this creates a psychological impasse. The insecure individual is forced into one of two outcomes: escalation or withdrawal. Escalation exposes their instability and confirms the Sigma male's initial assessment. Withdrawal, on the other hand, reveals their dependence on external validation. Both outcomes resolve the situation without the Sigma male lifting a finger. He understands that peace is not maintained by winning confrontations, proving dominance, or asserting superiority. Peace is maintained by choosing where one's energy goes, and more importantly, where it does not. By refusing participation, he dissolves the conflict before it fully forms. There is no argument to win because there was never a need to argue. There is no hierarchy to establish because his self-worth is internally anchored. In this way, the Sigma male moves through social spaces with quiet authority, not because he dominates others, but because he is untouched by their need to dominate at all. Point 6. Pressure to compromise values or inner alignment. The final and most absolute boundary for the Sigma male is internal misalignment, and it is the one boundary that, once crossed, cannot be negotiated, softened, or delayed. The moment pressure appears that asks him to abandon his principles for approval, convenience, or strategic advantage, something deep within him withdraws. This withdrawal is not emotional or reactive. It is quiet, precise, and irreversible. Moral compromise, forced conformity, or expectations to perform a role that contradicts his true nature register immediately as danger signals, not because they threaten his image, but because they threaten his inner order. For the Sigma male, self-betrayal is a form of internal collapse, and no external reward is worth that cost. He understands, often from hard-earned experience, that the moment he begins to act against his own values, he loses clarity, direction, and self-respect. And once those are gone, strength becomes an illusion. He would rather endure solitude, misunderstanding, or temporary loss than live fractured from himself. This choice is not driven by pride or stubbornness, but by an unshakable commitment to coherence. His values are not situational tools to be adjusted based on social pressure or personal gain. They are structural elements of his identity, forming the framework through which he makes decisions, interprets reality, and governs his behavior. When those structures are compromised, even slightly, the internal system destabilizes, focus weakens, discipline erodes, intuition dulls. The Sigma male is acutely aware of this chain reaction, which is why he guards this boundary with absolute seriousness. What outsiders may mistake as rigidity is, in truth, alignment. What appears to be emotional distance is often self-preservation. He does not reject others lightly, but he rejects any environment, relationship, or opportunity that requires him to abandon his core. Inner order is the foundation of his strength, the source of his calm, and the reason he moves through life without needing validation or permission. When he is aligned, he is steady. When he is steady, he is powerful. And because he understands this, he will always choose integrity over acceptance, coherence over comfort, and inner truth over external reward, even if that choice leaves him standing alone. The Sigma male's boundaries are rarely announced. They are enforced silently through presence and absence. Those who align experience consistency. Those who do not experience distance. There is no hostility in this process, no resentment, only quiet selection. This is why Sigma males are often misunderstood, yet deeply respected over time. Their discipline is invisible, but its effects are unmistakable. Having said this,